I still struggle with internalized homophobia, and I think I lost my penis to internalized homophobia. I literally did. If you want to remove your breasts or add implants as an adult, I don't think prohibition works. We've learned that from history. Like when there was prohibition of alcohol, people would still find ways to drink. We don't want backyard surgeries. Like I'm afraid that pendulum will swing so far back once we see all this like now trans kids like speaking out later, that everything will get banned, and that's not gonna.
That's not good either. Again, two things can be true at once. It could be going too far, but it's also we do need some of it.
When the doctors or therapists, they can tell, okay, this adult, even if it's an adult, like, oh, they're dealing with this mental health issue or this one, like, then they have to be treated for that, and then you don't see the backyard surgeries and stuff like that, because then they get the proper help, and I think that's really important, even though it has nothing to do with trans. If you had the magic wand and you got your penis back, would you feel very dysphoric?
I don't think I was as dysphoric. To me, it was like more social pressures. The women I modeled myself after don't have penises. I am from older generation. I'm older than you know. So when I was transitioning, the whole like, oh, women can have penises wasn't a thing. I think after taking estrogen, I definitely felt more dysphoria around my bottom thing. And I was brainwashed by trans community as well.
Do you think because you enjoy presenting so femininely that you felt the only way to do that was to transition?
Right, because I didn't grow up in this country and I didn't have examples of femboys. And some people don't like that word, but feminine men, I guess, that are super flamboyant and almost borderline like presenting as a woman, but they don't identify as women, such as Jeffree Star. And I think those are the men when I started seeing them on social media, because I missed the whole MySpace era. So I saw them on YouTube first, literally in 2016. I think only in 2016 I discovered who Jeffree was, and I was like, wait, that's not trans woman? Like, and that's kind of like gave me that cognitive dissonance. I was like, wait a minute.
Like, oh, this is a possibility.
Right, but it was too late. I already had the surgery in 2015. So, yeah, I just kind of never crossed my mind. And I think I still struggle with internalized homophobia. And I think I lost my penis to internalized homophobia. I literally did. I had this conversation with my fiance on camera, and I got a lot of hate for saying this. I felt like I was thinking to myself, like, what am I and what are my best options? I want some kind of functional genitals, and I just feel like phalloplasty is not an option. Because after talking to the trans man who got it, it's a horror story.
It's not even possible for trans men, like, for it to be functional and pleasant. So in your situation, no.
I get off. I'm just going to be frank, you know, and people accuse me of having autogynephilia for saying this. I imagine having sex as, I guess, with my with vagina, you know, I imagine a vagina myself, and people say, oh, you have autogynephilia. And
no, that to me, that sounds like dysphoria.
Yeah, and
not autogynephilia.
What helped me understand that, I was listening to another detrans woman who happens to be gay. You know, she transitioned also because of internalized homophobia. She said because she grew up religious, and so did I, it was a way for her to access her sexuality by imagining being a man with a woman.
That's very true, and that's something that I used to do in the past. 100%.
Thank you for 100%. Because when
I think most. I don't think that's a secret. I think a lot of gay men and a lot of lesbians, when they first come out, if they are with, which I have never been, but if they are with somebody of the opposite sex, like physically with somebody of the opposite sex, they picture themselves differently.
Yeah.
Because they feel not dysphoric, but I don't know what the word would be for
envy maybe.
Yeah.
And envy or. They feel like this is how it's supposed to be. I'm not supposed to think this way. Right?
I just want to say that homophobia, is very much like influenced my transition and social dysphoria, because again, society expected me as a man to wear certain things or act certain way, and I checked out of masculinity because I just felt like all other men were so masculine that I could never measure up. And the closest point of comparison were women. You know, I felt like I was as feminine naturally as they were, my mannerisms. I mean, I'm still getting accused of putting on an act. And yes, this hair, makeup, it's something I enjoy, but it's obviously artificial. But my mannerism, like the way I move my hands, the way I like talk, it's natural. Well, I had voice surgery, but like, I don't know why there's like this notion that we're all like creating this character, and some of it is created, but a lot of it is also like natural. And yeah, for sure, I've been accused of having autogynephilia before because of that, and I did admit like on interviews that I watched straight porn, and I imagine myself as a woman when I watch straight porn, and people said like, oh, okay, you must have autogynephilia, and I'm like,
that's not what that is. No, there are plenty of lesbians that watch straight porn, myself included,
Thank you so much. I don't follow.
Yeah. The lesbians they'll watch straight porn before they'll watch lesbian porn. I've mentioned this in videos in the past. And we picture ourselves as the guy. Not because we think we're men. It's very different than what you're saying. We pick, not because we want to be the man, but because we want to be pleasuring the woman. And in fake lesbian porn, there is no actual pleasuring of the woman.
Oh my God.
And in straight porn, if the woman is into it, which if you find a good one, they are, right? You can picture yourself as the man because you're the one doing that pleasuring.
For sure, hormones also changed my sexuality, and I just don't know. It's been so like I've been kind of asexual because I didn't have testosterone in my body, you know, and I was confused. I was also attracted to women while I was not on testosterone because I was just like attracted to everyone more like on a spiritual level.
Really?
But now my testosterone is back, and it's just more like low vibration desires, you know. It's more, I guess, manlier sex drive, you know. It's more like visual.
Right.
It's something we don't really talk about as much. You would know that, right? Because
I've been on both sides.
Yeah. So tell us more.
I thought I was attracted to girls like my entire life. As 13, 14, I thought I was attracted to girls. But that was just a way for me to distance myself from the other girls in my class and all of that. So when I discovered that I was trans, I slowly discovered that I was attracted to men. And then I identified as bisexual, but now I'm not attracted to women anymore, so it's only men. And then maybe that my story is a little bit different from what you've heard before, but I've also heard that a lot of trans men after testosterone are attracted to men, and I find that very interesting.
I think that's Buck Angel's story.
He said that.
Mm-hmm.
That Buck Angel is bisexual.
He's bi. Taking estrogen changed the way you feel about sex. And I know that when trans guys go on, or anyone that goes on, even a cisgender woman, they go on testosterone, their sex drive increases or it changes in some way. Mm-hmm. Did that happen with you as well?
So what has changed is I was never a sexual person when I was a female or when I was living as a girl, on estrogen, all this stuff. But just like the day after I was on testosterone for the first time, that completely changed. I think about sex all the time, and I'm horny all the time, and it's like I'm a 14-year-old boy. The HRT, it's like another puberty. It's a second puberty. So even though I'm 23 and very legal, it's like I'm a 14-year-old boy.
I saw men in a different light once I lost my testosterone because I was boy crazy before. Because we haven't really talked about AGPs and HSTSs when I was transitioning, I did not know about any of that. A lot of HSTSs do have higher than average. And if you guys don't know, HSTS is homosexual, transsexual. We often have like high sex drive, and a lot of us are shy boys. And it's our sex drive that pushes us to transition.
What is it called?
HSTS, homosexual.
HSTS.
Homosexual, transsexual.
Yeah, HSTS.
Yeah,
okay.
so gay men that transition, you know.
Right.
Yeah, so once I lost my sex drive, I just saw men in a different light. I guess I just wanted more of emotional connection.
I think that's Blair's story.
To cuddle,
pretty sure. Yeah.
Then, but I realized those men just want sex all the time. And I just kind of was on the other end of things, and I wanted a romantic connection, and I realized how hard it is to find when most men are programmed to pretty much, you know,
spread their seed.
Yeah, spread their seed. And I feel like there's a lot of hate towards men because of that. I just feel like I am a man-made woman, you know, for men, and I just wish I wasn't attracted to men because I just realized like a lot of trauma was caused by men in my childhood. I feel like exhausted. There's all the hate we're getting online. So sometimes I feel like maybe I should step out and just go back to living styles. I mean, I will still do online activism, so that's what your transition would mean to me. It's also hard, you know, my therapist also tells me that, you know, you're a beautiful woman, like, that's what you are. You're just a trans woman battered by transphobia, you know? And transphobia is on the rise because of dumbasses that enter themselves into pageants and compete against, like, it's everyone, you know?
Right.
And it's like, at this point, it's embarrassing to be trans, so I don't want to carry a trans label.
Right.
I mean, you gave me hope being part against Trans Against Boomers, just a little plug. It gives me hope because there is base transsexuals, but I don't know if I want to carry that label, but if I retransition and identify as a transsexual woman, you know, I will never identify as transgender because that means nothing.
No.
Yeah, gender is a social construct. It would be not an identity, it would be more just like my reality.
Right.
I've had secondary sex characteristics altered, you know?
Right.
It's no longer an identity, it's my reality that I have to live with. That's how I look at it. And
like you're forced to be a transsexual?
yes, I'm stuck in surgically altered body. I feel like surgically, I have better chances of getting a few inches of a tunnel because I'm getting a phalloplasty. Because I want some kind of be able to have some kind of sex, whether it's a penis, some kind of genitals, that I could have sex with. And when I said that, I got a lot of hate. I don't mean it disrespecting women. I don't say that women are just a tunnel.
Right.
I'm just saying for me, it would help my mental health if I could get either my penis back or have a tunnel,
Because right now it's closed up, right? Or
I
something?
have 1 inch, so I think if I could find a good doctor, maybe they could, open back up and line it with something, with some new tissues.
Right.
Tissues. I think that's more probable and more likely in nearer future than phalloplasty.
Yeah, that's more realistic.
That's more realistic.
And of course, you want to go with that option. Why don't people understand that?
Yeah, they're like, no, you're a porn sick dude that reduces women to a hole. I'm like, that's not what I said. And
I didn't get that. I didn't get that at all.
I just want to clarify that I don't think woman is a hole.
No,
but for my mental health, I would like to have a hole.
Now that you have lost your penis, do you honestly believe anyone that's had their penis chopped off is actually happy, or were they all lying? Can you imagine real, true happiness after amputating a sex organ and having intercourse through a man-made hole?
I think the answer is the two truths at once again. But that's up to you.
I tweeted the saying where I said trans patient 2 dots comes to a doctor and says like, I'm depressed, suicidal, I hate my body, and gender doctor 2 dots. Have you tried cutting off body parts? And I agree with that because I don't think cutting off body parts solves mental issues. It can work for some people to present certain ways, the ways they want to present. I feel like it can be a powerful placebo if you cut off like a huge body part. It could maybe, if you're so convinced that you're trans and this will really help you, placebo is a real thing. It's been documented, whether
absolutely
through rituals or through praying.
Yeah, mind over matter.
Yeah, mind over matter. It's been documented very well. So I think I've said that over and over, like it can act as a powerful placebo for years and sometimes for a lifetime. And if it can help some people for a lifetime, and that's good, maybe solve all mental issues with one sacrifice like that. Chloe Cole, some other detransitioners, sometimes they have regret within a year, within months after top surgery. So for me, it was definitely not a solution. I got very depressed. I've gotten anxious to the point where I could not be alone in the room without getting panic attacks. Now with testosterone, I feel a little more confident, a little less anxious. So it was not a good solution. Honestly, now looking back in retrospective, it's mind-boggling to me that I was allowed to do this to myself with all other mental issues that I have. I'm sure it helps to some people. It helped you.
Yeah, of course.
It helped Blair, Buck. But one thing I want to put out, back to retransition point, I was talking earlier to you about this. If I retransition, I will never push on narratives that it saved my life. It's just more of my reality. I did these things to myself. The way I am, it's more just trying to accept my reality versus trying to do more surgeries. And I don't want to put that narrative out because I do see some trans people say that it's absolutely saved their lives and it's the best thing that ever happened to them. And I just want to clarify that making money through like being trans, through certain look, it's not the same as it saved your life. Unless you had suicide attempts recorded and then after transition you no longer have those attempts for years, it's a very strong statement to make.
Right.
I mean, in my situation, I didn't get all the surgeries that were offered to me. I didn't get the bottom surgery because I would much rather live with the bottom dysphoria I have and not risk my life and my genitals, my sex life and sexual function to something I don't know what I will have and what it will do to me. And I feel really comfortable with that because I'm acknowledging my biology. I pass as a man out in society, but at the same time I keep some of my natural body parts that kind of reminds me of my story and who I am and stuff like that. And I'm just so lucky and so happy that I can live with that. So that's my story. It's not everyone's story, but right. I'm just lucky, in other words.
Yeah, I think the only way to transition in the future, we should really teach people if they're really struggling with this and want to transition, they should not forget their biological sex because it's risky actually. I've read stories when trans men have been hospitalized for like emergency and they've been put in like breathing tubes and their throat is smaller and they've been damaged because their paperwork says male.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Right, I've seen stories like that from person who
That's scary. Okay,
so
that makes sense though.
also like just knowing that like taking testosterone, like it's not something that's natural to your body, or taking estrogen as a male, like it's not, just knowing those risks are important. I think ideologies that we have right now is very dangerous. People who want to transition, they should be like, they're trans men, they're not just men, you know. I think that's where I went wrong. If I knew that I'll always be a trans woman, I would have never chopped off my dick.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I think that's what we need to teach future generations. For those who can't cure dysphoria any other way and they must transition, acknowledging your biology, like, it's important because it's also a healthy thing to do.
Yeah, and self-love, self-acceptance, and try to deal with what you deal with as much as possible without any medicine, surgery is the most important part.
And identity is a journey, like self-discovery. We're all on some kind of journey.
It's so important that we have all these categories, like autogynephilia, detransitioners, transsexuals, maybe even transgenders, and all of these different names, because then we can figure out who's who, and
not have it all under the trans umbrella.
Exactly.
It's not the same
because
thing.
People are so nuanced, and the world isn't black and white. So I really like that we have all these labels. It helps us understand humans more, human psychology more.
Yeah, thank you everyone for having me.
That was I don't think I've done a deep video like that in a while.
That was really deep, right?
But it's very important, and I think it's necessary. It's needed. So I want to, instead of you thanking us, I think we want to thank you.
Yes,
because you've given yourself the opportunity to heal other people. And it's a very beautiful thing, and I think that's the silver lining here, and I think you should walk away with that and try to focus on that and focus on healing yourself.
That's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Go check out Shapeshifter and his channel, and the other half on Ariel's channel. Bye.
Bye.